Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Greg Luken, and he is the founder of Luken Wealth Management, and he has spent nearly 4 decades developing innovative math-based investment solutions, primarily for first-generation wealth individuals. Welcome.
Thank you. Good being with you, Gary. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks. So Greg, give us your background. I'm going to say, you don't have the typical background of a wealth advisor. You kind of took a different path to get here. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So I started studying biology. I dropped out of college for a few years and played music on the road professionally, and then got a degree in English. Decided I didn't want to write for a living, so I got into financial services, and coming at it from a different perspective, not coming in the kind of the traditional way, getting the degree in finance and going the CFA route, caused us to start from a different perspective and really look at making sure we were solving getting the question right, solving the right problem. And, I think it's unexpectedly just worked out and made a great difference.
Yeah, I think lots of times, I like what you said, it's like, okay, we're trying to, answer the question. Lots of times, we find professionals not asking the questions. They're telling people what they think that they want to hear. Talk to us a little bit more about your approach and how you come at it from a different angle.
Well, I think one of the ways that is a little different is I think I got a salary for about 2 years of my life. Started working when I was 14. So there's been that sense of, I've had a number of businesses. I've listened to the language of a number of professions, and what I found was, every profession has kind of its silo of language. There's CPAEs and attorneys and financialese, and what we try to do is look at it from the other person's perspective. How do we communicate? How do we just make sure we understand what they're saying? Because language can be such a barrier, even when we have the same root language. We want to make sure that we understand. One of the things we talk about in our shop is making sure we go 5 questions deep, because somebody may say, we had yesterday, someone say, oh, well, the money in my 401k, and they don't have a 401k, and we could get all caught up. Well, they have a SEP, or they have a rollover. There are 11 different kinds of IRAs, and no, what they mean is their retirement plan. So let's not get wrapped around the axle about what they're calling it. Let's make sure we're asking the questions to get to what they're trying to do and meet them where they are.
Yeah, I think that before we went on, we kind of talked about this and how many professionals, and it doesn't make any difference what profession it's in, all do talk in acronyms. And it's just like, and lots of times that drives me nuts because, not everybody knows what those acronyms are. So it's, you really got to know your audience. And I think, what you guys are doing by taking that approach of really digging deep and making sure you guys understand, it is extremely important, to be able to help these individuals get where they need to get. In your book that you wrote, you have like three key superpowers that you talk about. Can you explain kind of these powers and how small business owners can develop them?
Absolutely. So, Gary, I think the easiest way to think about it for me is that there are three primary reasons for financial failure that we see. Number one is the lack of a concrete, excuse me, number one is the lack of absolute clarity around purpose, mission, the why. Uh,
Mhm.
and number two is the lack of a concrete step-by-step plan of action. And number three is the lack of that discipline to execute. So the three superpowers are kind of the anti-failure pattern. And so superpower one is the power of purpose or having that clarity about your why. Number two is a the power of plan, a step-by-step concrete plan of action. Cognition takes so much energy. Our brain is a minority of our body, but takes the majority of energy to run. So thinking about what we're going to do next takes a lot of time and energy. It's like going to the gym without a game plan. Like, what do I need to do next? But when you go in with it, here's my game plan. Here are the 5 exercises I'm doing. I don't have to think about it, and boom, 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 I'm out. And it's very effective. And number three is that discipline to execute. And look, we're all human. We're all gonna get knocked out of the saddle. And so what is that process that we already have built in place so that we have a way to get up, dust ourselves off, and get back in the saddle and go again? Because that consistency of execution is really key. And those three superpowers, it's not rocket surgery, right? It's really like running an effective business. And what we find is that the right mindset is to look at running your personal finances like a great business. And there are really so many corollaries between the two.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you talk about the mindset because we've had some business coaches that have been on the show, and they talk about the mindset and how they've had to get the business owner to really change their mindset and how they look at things. And I think that, like you're saying, it's like, okay, treat it like a business. You got to change that mindset and things like that. In the whole, abundance versus scarcity and everything else. With that, how do you help these individuals, really change that mindset and think of things differently?
Well, that's a great question. So if you think about like some of those coaches you've had on, whether you're talking about somebody that's doing like EOS or scaling up or traction or
Yeah,
strategic coach or C12, any of those kind of business coaching environments, you can't hit it one time and be done. You have to develop the sense of rhythm that you're going back to it again and again. What is it? Moore's law. What gets measured gets results. I
yeah,
think Moore's law. And so having that mindset that there is going to be a specific time on a specific rhythm where I look at this and really uh, and really develop that mindset. Gary, for 35 years, and the reason I wrote the book was for 35 years, 36 years now, I've seen the patterns, and they're very distinct patterns, two very distinct patterns. The patterns of people who made money and blew it, and people who made money multiplied it, and were able to enjoy it. And the wonderful thing is, it's really about the mindset and the behavior. It's not about intelligence. It's not about having all the information. It's about those simple disciplines, just being faithful and consistent with them.
Um, in talking through this, and your book, you have other things that you're talking about in the book. You talk about, the villains and things like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Uh, Absolutely. Um, Gary, can I ask your permission before I do that? Can I tell you just a short story about um, making sure we have that personal discipline?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So when I first got in financial services, I started as a stockbroker and got my first securities registration in 1988. So, I'm absolutely a dinosaur. So, um, my training consisted of, hey, congratulations, you passed your test. Hopefully you have a list. If not, there's a phone book. Um, we've got a clipboard with tax-free municipal bonds, and don't ask anybody to buy less than $50,000 worth of them. And I remember this absolute panic setting in of, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody who even has $50,000 to their name. So, um, so in my desk drawer, as I was getting settled in, I found what I thought was gold. It was like the Glengarry Glen Ross, the magic leads. At the back of the bottom drawer, there were these note cards that had, business owner, name, address, phone number, and handwritten notes. And I looked at them, and there were probably 50 or 100 of them. And on every one, it said, um, no money now, reinvesting everything in the business, call back in 6 months. And it was dated, and that date was like 2 years previously. And so there'd been a stockbroker who'd washed out of the business and left this stuff. Well, here were all these people that were going to have all this money. So I called through this whole list. Gary, every one of them said virtually the same thing. I don't have any money right now. I'm reinvesting everything in my business. Call me back in 6 months. Well, I bought a computer. I was, the outlier. I actually had my own computer with a CRM, the only person in the office. Everybody else was using these little shoe boxes with note cards. I called them all back in 6 months, and you'll never believe what they told me. I don't have any money. I'm reinvesting everything in my business. Call me back in 6 months. But I had learned to ask better questions. So I started asking about, so what kind of retirement plan do you have through your business? What are you doing for consistent investing outside of your retirement plan? And what I discovered was almost all of them weren't doing that. And so it was this little note to self, this like pivot point in my career. I don't ever want to be a servant to my business. I want my business to serve me in my life. And so to pivot to your question, the two villains that we see showing up most consistently today, particularly this year, year to date, 2025, is one that we call FinPorn, or financial pornography. And she is one of the most seductive of the villains. She's very polished. And, we all know pornography takes a natural human desire and perverts it. And that's what fin porn does. It takes this natural human desire for certainty. Our brains crave certainty. We want to know what's going to happen. We want that crystal ball. We want to know the outcome. So, taking these plausible sounding theories and saying, well, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen with China. Here's what's going to happen with oil prices. Here's what's going to happen with inflation. Here's what's going to happen with rates. Here's what's going to happen with the stock market. And um, and so it's great to be informed. It's great to be educated. But when we get all stirred up about things that we can't really uh, impact, uh, it can become very unhealthy. The other one we see, which is interrelated, is what we call LD, or the lever denier. There are only four levers we can pull financially. There are only four things we can impact. And so keeping that lever denier wants to keep us from acknowledging that reality and think that, oh, well, there's some secret I haven't discovered in it. If I just watch enough videos on TikTok, or uh, somehow find the secret that'll unlock everything, and I'll be a millionaire or multimillionaire overnight. That's like buying a lottery ticket. Lottery. We all know lottery tickets are just a tax on people who don't know how to do math. And somebody's going to win, but it's not going to be you.
Hey, yeah.
So, there are only four levers we can pull. How much we invest, how long we invest, how we invest, or how much we spend. And those are the only things we can impact. So those are the two villains that we see really showing up in full force these days.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the TikTok. There are so many pretenders that are out there, not just in your world, but in the tax world, that are out there professing all these things, and how there's, I'm going to call it the silver bullet theory and stuff like that. All you have to do is this one thing, and you're going to be rich, or you're not going to, you're going to be able to save in taxes and all this stuff. And I want to say there's maybe like 1% truth in there, and then the rest of it is BS. And I think that kind of like your FinPorn that you're talking about, same type thing. It's like, they prey on these people that want, these get rich schemes, or, I'm going to say even with the tax savings, get rich. And it's just, they don't work. I mean, the chances of you picking the right stock over time. I forget what the time period was when everybody was doing the day trading. And then it was like, it was great for a little while. And then all of a sudden, it just, it may have been in '08 that the bottom just dropped out. And all these people that were doing quit their jobs and were doing day trading and stuff like that. Then they were, very, very poor, and in debt.
Well, and to your point, you can see these trends playing out, right? So you had in the late 90s the rise of the powerhouse um, of financial media, right? Early 90s, it was Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser on public television once a week. That
Right.
was, and then it became everybody's talking about stocks. And then 2000 came along, the dot-com bust, and then it became flip this house, and everybody was just going to buy real estate, and you know, you were going to make 10% this month and next month, and so there was that mentality. And then there was a cash for gold store on every other corner, and so then that blew up, and you just see these things cycle.
And so many of them, people are getting involved on the backside of it. And that's where, because by the time it gets to, I'm going to say, to the general public, and it's becoming that trend or whatever, we're already on the backside. You've already missed it. The bubble's about to pop, and that's you're not going to do what is being promised. And the people that are professing that they're going to teach you how to do it and stuff like that because they've done it, they're teaching you now because they know that the end is up. And they want to try to continue to prosper on what happened before.
And this is really an issue for first generation wealth, like those entrepreneurs who, came from humble or modest
Right.
beginnings and now have built a business where they actually have some success. And there's this sense of, well, I've got a foot in the old world and a foot in the new world, but I'm not sure what I'm missing in this new world. So are there tax strategies that I'm missing? Are there investment strategies that I'm missing? I have this fear of missing out and I have this fear of messing up. And, I've got this Waffle House hash brown life where I'm scattered, smothered and all covered up. I got aging parents. I may have kids I'm trying to help adult. Uh, I've got a business I'm trying to run. I got a marriage I'm trying to nurture, and I'm trying to have a life somewhere in there. And so you've got all these things going on, and there we see a lot, particularly with first generation entrepreneurs, this sense of is there something I'm missing out on, this tax strategy or this investment strategy, because this isn't the world I grew up in, right? I didn't grow up talking about tax loss harvesting or tax loss carry forwards or what are the 415 limits on a retirement plan, or that's wasn't the talk at our dinner table. Uh, we were talking about, hey, we don't have the money for that kind of vacation. We don't live in that kind of house. It was a different conversation. And so many first gen entrepreneurs, um, that's a very real thing for them.
Yeah. I think that along those same lines, when I was growing up, there was never any talk about, finances and stuff like that. My mom was a school teacher raising three kids on her own. So there wasn't anything extra. But that's something that I've learned that I do talk to my kids about finance and different things and different strategies to just offer it up to them and not telling them that, hey, you have to do this or that, but just offering up so they can think for themselves on it. When you look at the first generation, wealth builders and stuff like that, if you had one piece of advice to give them, what would it be?
Uh,
I know there's a lot because there's a ton of stuff you want to be able to tell them, but what would that one thing, if you could only tell them one thing, what would it be?
I think it would be start early, stay consistent.
Okay. I think that's great advice.
Yeah. So, and the reason for that, Gary, is if you look at the statistics on, there was a survey recently of 10,000 people with at least $1 million net worth. 79% of them said the majority of their wealth came from consistent investing over a long period of time. And so there is particularly with the TikTok generation, this sense of, well, I'm going to build an app and all of a sudden it's going to print money. It's going to be alchemy. I'm going to take earth, wind, and fire and turn it into gold. And, and the reality is it is that consistent investing over time for most people that creates most of their wealth.
Yeah. I've heard a number of times where people are saying it's like, when they've done the investing and accumulating a wealth, that first $1 million is hard to do, but then after that, it's easy. I don't know if any of it's actually easy, but like you're saying, you have to stay consistent. in what you're doing. Um,
Well, right. And so, you look at, well, if you're investing, uh, the 401k max each year. And so that's grown, and now um, there was a time where that was, less than $20,000. Now it's more than 50,000. But if you're doing that consistently, even at that, it can take a while to build up to $1 million. But once you get to $10 million, a 10% return in a year is your next $1 million. And so it's there is kind of that snowball, or kind of a hockey stick kind of effect. And that's why I think that first million, that discipline to make that first $1 million is so critical, because those patterns that help you get there are the same patterns that help you um, multiply it and enjoy it.
um, Greg, we've covered a bunch of stuff. Time seems to go quick on these.
Yeah.
Uh, what question did I not ask you wish I had?
Um, I think, um, from a self-serving standpoint, I would say something about our algorithmic or mathematical investment strategy, and how those patterns play together. But really, from your listeners' point of view, from the people that we're really having this conversation for, although it just seems fun to have this conversation. I would say that really thinking about our money like a great business, and making sure that we have uh, a good strategy, a good exit plan on our investments, on our business, and make sure that we are setting our business up to serve us, so that we are the boss of our business. Our business isn't the boss of us. And I think having that same purposeful approach, where we're looking at, the purpose of the business, the why, the what is what is what is that North Star? What are we trying to accomplish? What's the mission? Having a step-by-step concrete game plan, and making sure that we have a process for accountability and execution. Those are the superpowers that I think work with business, they work with money, and my personal belief is they work with life as well.
So, Greg, tell us the name of your book and where can people find it?
Um, I'm going to do something shameless self-promotion. It's called Unleash Your Financial Superpowers: How the First Generation Wealthy Do It, and You Can Too. And it's available wherever books are sold. And our website is luken.pro. It's Luken, like the gospel according to Luke, with an N on the end, .pro. And on there is a place where you can find more information on the book. And there are some free downloads on there. So you can, some worksheets and some ebooks where you can learn more.
Great. On there, I'm assuming that if people like what they hear and they want to talk to you more about investing and stuff like that, all your information's on there also.
It is, Gary. Thank you.
Great. Greg, really appreciate your time today. Enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, same here. Really great talking to you.
Great. Hey, this week my guest was Greg Luken, and he is the founder of Luken Wealth Management, and I'll see you guys next week.